Hi, I'm Jim Raffle. Welcome to this week's episode of the Jim and Shelby Show, All Things Print Podcast. I'm joined as always.
I'm Shelby Sufusek. How are you, Jim?
I'm good. I guess
Good.
not as always. You weren't on the last podcast. But
I wasn't. No.
yeah.
Well,
yeah, at the end.
I did. Yeah, I
Yeah.
did a little closing, I
Yeah.
guess.
Let's do a cameo.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that.
So we're in New Jersey.
We are in New Jersey. It's cold here.
It's cold everywhere, and we
Yeah.
had to rearrange our travel schedule
A couple times.
A
couple times.
A couple times, yeah. But we're here.
Yep.
And that's not what we're going to talk about.
No.
Well, I guess we just talked about it.
Well, we're not going to talk about what we're doing here. We're talking about something else.
So we've seen a trend.
We usually do this episode in January of the new year, I guess. And
we do.
Yeah, I guess we had some other things going on and we didn't. But we usually talk about what we see as the trend for the year coming up. And so here we are in mid-February, and this is going to come out, I guess, towards the end of February. And
Up to her.
and so we're a little bit behind in this. But, what do you see as the trend for 2025 when it comes to color management, the print industry in general?
I think I always have to preface it with, I really base this upon what we see coming towards us in terms of business.
Okay.
And it's heavily weighted towards the management of brand and spot color. Really brand spot colors. So yes, that does include things like Pantone, no question about it. But also just brands caring way more about their palettes than they have in the past. Now, I'm not saying brands did not care about their palettes. That's not true. It's just everything's gone up a notch. It's like I have a really good friend from way back. I got to give him credit. John Sweeney said once, long ago, when you start out in color and color control, you can barely hit the broadside of a barn, and hopefully through color verification, color process control, color management, the whole suite of workflow tools, you work from the broadside of the barn to the barn door, right? And that's a pretty big improvement when you could barely hit the broadside of the barn, and now you're getting in the barn door. And then you shoot for that window that's next to the barn door. And then you shoot for one pane of that window. And I see that happening with brand and spot colors. Now, let's talk 10 delta E, 5 delta E, 3 delta E, 2 delta E, right? It's all comes down to delta E, right?
Of course. I guess I agree with you. That is definitely what we're seeing as...
Is that twice this year?
No, it's just once. Very first time I agree with you this year. Mid-February, that's about right on track. But it is where we're seeing some business come in. But why do you think that is? Why do you think that all of a sudden, and it's not all of a sudden, I understand what you're saying, it's always been important, but why all of a sudden does it seem more important or more of a priority for some of these companies? And also, do you think that it is smaller companies, larger companies?
Okay, so I'm going to start last first.
Okay.
Definitely larger companies.
Okay,
in the cases I'm thinking of, these are big brands. These are millions, billions of dollars, and so what we're seeing is, I think, business cycles just working their way through. So in like one case specifically, equipment is aging out. And as the equipment ages out, the potential client was seeking proposals for not just new equipment, but maybe getting more out of their new equipment. So in this particular case, someone's trying to expand their palette. In other words, they feel like the devices they're working with aren't producing enough colors, and they want something that produces more color. In other cases, it's just a customer of the potential client, the end users, are demanding a higher level of color consistency, predictability, and repeatability. And wrapped up in that is continually hearing this brand, that brand isn't happy with what we're producing, right? And so it's driven, I think, at the very top by billion-dollar brands, and then it filters down to where we're dealing with the print service providers that you and I work with, in some cases, but not in all cases.
Well, another thing, since we are talking, and this is from my insider knowledge of knowing who is coming to us, of course, but since we're working with talking about these bigger companies wanting brand colors, we're also talking about multiple print facilities, which is another variable when you're talking about brand colors, because you have these companies either around the country or even sometimes out of the country, all trying to create the same brand colors from different locations, and that can be a challenge all in itself.
Yeah, and even the client we're with this week, who does not fall into that gigantic category, they're still a good sized company with multiple locations and adding locations as they go. They have a demand from their customers, who are brands, to produce a higher level of color quality, consistency, and predictability. It's not to say they aren't already producing high quality, predictable, repeatable color. The market is demanding more. That's what I see. The market is demanding a higher level out of anyone who wants to play in the billion-dollar brand game. And everyone wants a piece of that. Yeah.
So that's where you see things going this year overall?
Oh, God, I don't know. I don't see. Let's talk about what I don't see.
Okay.
I don't, and this is cyclical. I've noticed this in my 20 years of really kind of keep track of it. This isn't a training year. That's not to say that people won't show up for G7 expert training. They did. That's training at a very high level.
G7 plus.
G7 plus expert training, branding, tech, and so. But I think that it's just not one of those years when training is going to be. People are going to be all in on training. This is a year. I have this theory that people are either all in on training or they're all in on capital investment. And this feels like a capital investment year. So that means people buying new printers, people upgrading their RIPs, buying new RIPs, buying new measuring instruments, buying new software to work with those instruments. So it's an investment in technology year, and that's always followed by a training year. So next year, we'll be very busy with training. This year, we'll do training. It's not like we won't. Not like training goes away, but training will not be as significant a portion of our business this year as next year is my prediction.
And we're a small company who does a very small amount of training when we think about it. I still think training.
Depends on the year.
I suppose.
There's years when it's a third of our business, which is a lot.
All right, for us, yes. But we are a small company. I do think you're still going to see some need for education when at the bigger trade shows. I think people are still going to go to those those things.
iLearning Plus from Printing United Alliance is going to
online training. I think will.
I mean, we're doing some online training with some of our vendors, which we've been asked to do.
Now, interestingly enough, we are creating some new training modules
for iLearning Plus
right now. So. Hopefully those will come out this year, but we're involved in a few of those right now, and so I don't think we're giving up on training at all.
This had nothing to do with us. This is the market.
Sure.
I have this sense that this is one of the years when the market is not going to be looking, at least for us. I mean, that doesn't mean other people won't. They won't be looking for us to show up and do in-person, hands-on training a lot. Doesn't mean it won't happen. There's just some years where that's like a huge part of our business, and I just don't see this as being one of those years. I see it as one of those years when people have made big investments in technology, and they want on-site consulting to help utilize that technology.
So that always makes me wonder if, so this is a year that people are either at the end of last year, beginning of this year, people are buying new equipment, buying new technology, investing in that new equipment and technology, and so they're trying to dial in all of that, and so the training may come, 6-8 months down the road. But we are. I even got an email in my inbox today. It's like, hey, we're moving to a new location. We're getting some new printers. It's 4 months down the road. What are you guys doing this summer to help us get these printers dialed in? But it's all new technology for them. I guess, getting off we don't see training, but we do see brand colors. And what do you think people who are looking to dial in their brand colors, what are some of the steps that they should take to get there? Like, what is, if they're a bigger company, a smaller company, it doesn't matter. What's one of the first few things they should do?
Send an email to Shelby at colorcasters.com
Okay.
and schedule us to come in and help you.
Oh, okay. Well, we're just going to sell right out the gate.
Oh, that wasn't the right answer?
No, it wasn't.
Okay. That is such a hard question. It really is. The big thing you always have to do, and we just talked about it today with our client, is you got to figure out where you are right now. And,
Baseline.
Yep, you've got to establish the baseline from which you're trying to improve.
Mm-hmm.
Because many people don't even know what the baseline is, except that they've got customers who are unhappy. And so, for me, you have to quantify that. And I mentioned the term delta E before. And ideally, what you want to do is you want to get samples of what the customer considers acceptable and samples of what the customer considers to be unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully, when I say unacceptable, right, something that's close to the edge. And then you want to use an instrument, a spectrophotometer, to measure those two and come up with this delta E term. If you don't know what that is, we have online training that'll teach you about it. But you want to come up with a delta E value for that. Let's just say it's 6, right? The customer is willing to accept 6. And then you start going to your press room. 6 is a big number, by the way, but not that crazy of a number. Then you start working with the people in your press room with these instruments, and you say, on this job, I need you to do random sampling, and I need you to make sure that everything is less than 6. If it's more than 6, you need to stop the press and figure out what's going on. If it's less than 6, you keep running. And 6 is, like I said, it's a really big number. It's more likely to be somewhere between 3 and 5. Maybe even tighter than that, depending on the client and the piece of equipment. But that's the first thing. You got to get a baseline, and that baseline is really measured in customer acceptance. Unless you're just creating your own internal move towards more quality, and then you can set the numbers wherever you want to set them. But you have to figure out what the baseline is and what the goal is.
So it comes down to what we're always saying. You don't know what you don't know. Until you know what you don't know, you can't really move forward to figure out how to make it better.
It's always a fair statement. Always a fair statement. And measure, right?
Yeah.
Measure. Yep. And what's measured gets done. So, which Deming said. And what all that really means is that the things that as management, that you're putting an emphasis on to actually measure, the people who are being asked to do the measuring and who know that it's being measured are going to pay more attention to that. It's that simple. You put a focus on it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And so, based on all this, do you see us doing a lot of this out in the field this year? Then it seems like it, right?
Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah. It's hard to say.
I've just been through one of those cycles of business where my answer to everything at this moment is who knows, because everything changes so fast right now.
Right.
It's just like this week, plans we had to change because of weather. It's like, if it's not weather, it's a piece of equipment that doesn't get delivered on time. It's a person you were working with who gets let go or moves to a different division, and who knows? I mean, if you ask me right now, yes, we will be doing a lot of this based on the contracts that we are working on that are close to closing.
Mm-hmm.
It might be most of what we do this year.
Right.
But you could ask me in a month, and it'll be like, no, we're going to be setting up profiles for sign machines. We do what we do. So.
Yeah. And we go where we go.
Mm-hmm.
And I should bring up, though, if we're done speaking about this, that can you believe that ISA is less than 2 months away?
It's less than, or is it about?
By the time this publishes, it'll be right around.
Less than 2.
It'll just be right around 2 months. But yeah, so.
Should I get up and do my Snoopy dance for Las Vegas?
No.
No. Okay.
Please don't.
It's in Las Vegas, by the way.
Yeah.
At Mandalay Bay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone who wants to get together with us, email
we won't
Shelby
have a
at
booth.
Colorcasters.
Yep. We're just going to be walking around. So yeah,
We'll
email
be there
me.
the first 2 days, which is Wednesday and Thursday. We will not be there on Friday, which is the final day of the show.
At least not right now.
No.
We change things all the time. Who knows?
And yeah, we'd love to connect with you if you're going to be there.
Okay.
We have no real firm plans, which is kind of fun. The last several trade shows we've been booked solid, and that could change in those 2 months coming. But at the moment, we have no firm plans, and it might be fun to actually just go to a show and walk more, because we haven't gotten to do that in a long time. It's like people are like, "What did you see at the show?" Like the 6 booths I was involved with in the meeting room.
Right. Where we spoke.
For real. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the Palms. Oh, we do have. We'll be at the Palms.
That's true.
Through our partnership with PDS, we will be at a party at the Palms. I think that's Thursday night.
That's Thursday night.
And we'll get details out on that too.
Yes.
I think you've already shared details on that at least once on socials.
I have,
So,
yes.
But all right, I think we should wrap this up,
Okay.
and we will see you again in a couple weeks.